Hello, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Bustos. I'm the Vice President of the Programmatic Data Center at the IAB, where I have been leading the Retail Media Committee and the working group in helping buyers and retailers come together for a seamless shopping experience for both of them. With me today, I'm very excited. We're going to be talking on retail media, specifically the opportunity and the growth we've seen in Latin America. And we have Mateo Suervas from eMarketer Insider, and we also have Pablo Garcia from Mercado Libre joining us in this conversation. Mateo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Thank you so much for the invitation, Jeffrey. Hi, everyone. Mateo Cervels here. I lead up the research and report coverage for all of Latin America at eMarketer Insider Intelligence. We're a market research company based in New York, covering basically how digital is affecting basically affecting and transforming everything from how consumers spend their time online, how they're spending their money online, and how basically brands and companies can reach these consumers in an ever-changing digital world.
Excited to have you on the panel. And Pablo, we'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Pablo Garcia and I'm the Vice President for Marketing for Mercado Libre. I'm looking after the businesses of e-commerce and also the advertising business. I'm very excited to be here because we are in the middle of this, what we call the third wave in digital advertising, which is called retail media. And in Latin America, it is exploding at the moment, and it is following the previous two waves in digital advertising. The first one, as we can remember, was at the beginning of the 2000s with the search digital advertising wave. The second one, 10 years later, was with social media. And what we're seeing now is with the rise of the e-commerce in Latin America and also the digital advertising penetration within advertising in Latin America, we are seeing retail media booming. So this is a very interesting chat to have at the moment for Latin America and the world, of course.
Just to add to that, I completely agree with you, Pablo. It's been very interesting to see this rapid wave of, or this rapid transformation really over the past couple of years, I'd say 3 years more so. I think just to put some things into perspective, when you say that, with the rise of, say, digital ad spending and just how even advertising has changed and even e-commerce, I think that basically this retail media boom really sits at the intersection of two, at least from my perspective, two trends that we're seeing on our end, where you have a boom in retail e-commerce. Basically within the past 3 years, e-commerce's share of total retail going from about 5% in 2019 to be a little over 12% this year. So you're talking more than double a share. And then when you look on the digital advertising side, it's that rapid transformation of digital, which, in terms of share, went from about a little more than a third in 2019 to now almost 60% this year. It's just such a rapid change. And I think that Latin America now, given where it's been in this stage of transformation, it's not coming online, but it's transforming at a time when all these new factors are coming in. And that's really where brands have this opportunity to ride the retail media wave into this year, to the end of this year, into next year as well.
That's awesome. One comment, Mateo, to what you were saying is, we saw this very rapid growth through 2020 and 2021 with all the COVID and pandemia in Latin America. But what we're seeing after that and coming out of that situation is that the growth still continues, and very strongly. So really interesting to see how.
And I love seeing the growth. And Pablo, thanks for jumping in there. I guess to both of you, I know, Latin America's continent, there's a lot of countries. I would love to maybe dig in and maybe talk about a few countries that are seeing the most rapid growth and highlighting what growth that they're seeing, and if they're different, the types of growth these countries are seeing.
I could take a stab at it. I don't have so I'll preface this with spending or advertiser spending data is very scarce for Latin America. A lot of companies don't report that, which is fine. So we're at least on our end as analysts trying to understand the market sizing. It's a bit of a bit of an uncertainty just as to how much is being spent. But that said, we, at least from opportunity side, say Brazil and Mexico would be definitely the big powerhouses. Combined, they represent the lion's share of digital ad spending in Latin America, around, I'd say probably about 2/3. And in terms of e-commerce sales, they're equally an important lion's share, as well as about more than half of all digital buyers being located within those two countries. I'd also say both markets are a bit more mature in terms of, well, mature as this new trend, but mature compared to other countries where you have a bit more players. And when you have more players, there's always more competition to do better and to innovate even more. So that's my perspective from that. But I would, Pablo, I'd love to hear your take from what you're seeing at Mercado Libre as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with what you say. We're seeing same trends within Mercado Libre. I would add Argentina and Chile also to that kind of pool of countries that are rapidly growing within Latin America. What we're seeing in Latin America is a growth of retail media, which is around 35 to 40%, compared to like 15 to 17 in the US. So it's more than double. And led by these countries, no, like Brazil, Mexico. So really working with those countries to continue accelerating the growth, no.
And Pablo, I guess kind of talking in the opportunity within LATAM, Argentina, Chile, Brazil, and Mexico, would love to dig into what are the leading industries that are taking advantage of retail media.
Yes, what we're seeing in Latin America is that CPG is really leading the way. Also, consumer electronics, beauty, and fashion. We have very good examples of how they are using retail media to really propel their businesses. And what we're seeing is that these industries that are kind of the first movers into retail media are having an advantage over other industries. So I think they are doing some of the things really well. For example, working with the full funnel from consideration to conversion. Also, for example, smaller businesses leveraging all the performatic approach of retail media. And as I said before, they are really taking advantage of this first move into the industry. So my suggestion would be for them to continue deepening their relationship with retail media, and for other industries to jump in as soon as they can. No?
And Mateo, feel free to jump in.
I was just gonna compliment that by saying, it's funny, well, not funny, but it's interesting to hear that, those leading categories are also, when you look at it from like the e-commerce category share side, those are also some of the most important and most prominent categories of retail e-commerce, at least according to some of our forecasts. So it's nice to see how those trends do align with one another when you're looking across data sets. So that's also, I was going to interject about that.
I mean, I think that leads into my next question, kind of like, where do you see the biggest growth? I know that, you mentioned that Mexico and Brazil, big players right now. And Pablo mentioned that, our Argentina, Chile are growing very rapidly. Where do we see the growth potential in the next year or 5 years?
So for country level or for just retail?
Just in general, open-ended.
Yeah. I think country level, I would say at the country level, I think some of the smaller countries would definitely present opportunities. But again, you're growing from a smaller base of dollars. But I do think growth opportunity wise, we are living through some very challenging economic times. And I saw a global study, this was as a US study, sorry, and it was showing that, in terms of how brand perception is changing, where ad spending is being decreased a bit, but retail media ad spending, or the return on ad spending, that brands were prioritizing that. So, they're looking towards a format that is going to render them a solid return on their investments, because most of these retailers do know they have the first party data sets. And that's always the key. You have the data. And then when you have data, you as a brand, you as an advertiser, as a marketer, as we all know, working with data all the time, it's your best friend. You can adjust in real time, see how your campaigns are performing to maximize. So that's kind of where I see the trajectory, that given the lens of economic uncertainty, which I think all of us have read way too many times over the past few months. But heading into 2023 and over the next few years, how do you as marketers spend your money wisely if given all, budgets are tightening and you need to prove that these formats are working? And to me, retail media, it's a no-brainer, because if you're trying to sell a product, you need to be in front of people where they are at the time, contextually relevant times, and convert them right then and there, with an ad that's relevant to what they're looking for, and boom, conversion, sale, there you go, you're done.
Yes, in order to complement what Mateo was saying, I think that there are three things that very clearly we see in advertisers looking after retail media. The first one is mass reach. A couple of years ago, when e-commerce didn't have the penetration that it has today, the reach wasn't here, but now it is. In Mercado Libre, for example, we have more than 85 million visitors every day. So that's a really mass audience within Latin America, and sellers and brands are really after that. The second one is what Mateo was saying. When someone is looking for a product in an e-commerce, you have the consideration already there, because people are in the mood of buying something. So the link to conversion is much closer than in other media. So again, brands and sellers are really fond into that. And the third one is the fact that within an e-commerce, you have first-party data that allows you to follow basically the behavior from the beginning of the funnel until the conversion. Also allows us to have really good insights and really customized audiences in a way that is very precise. And again, brands and sellers appreciate that, because obviously you have the data to show the brand lift in awareness, the lift in conversion, and you can show exactly the return on the money that invest within an e-commerce. So those are three things that retail media offer, and we see very clearly when talking to brands and sellers that they really appreciate and they're really jumping into.
I mean, yeah, I think what you mentioned in terms of the first-party data, like the ability to target someone using first-party data, know what they bought, to kind of Mateo, as he was saying, you're able to close that. And then the fact that, retail media is able to offer closer reporting, which is going to be even more important as we lose more identifiers. You're able to say like, well, no, we know they bought that, instead of like a lot of reporting in the future will be probabilistic, where you're like, they may have bought that, we don't know. So it's, it's a very enticing opportunity. And I guess as we kind of talk about like advertising first-party data and targeting of audiences, I wanted to kind of dig into kind of like, what are the ad formats available in Mercado Libre, and how do you see them evolving, or how have they evolved?
Yes, we have different formats that allows you to target users from a discovery phase into the conversion phase. So from display to more performatic formats. And also one of the advantages that we offer to brands and sellers is the fact that you can work not only within Mercado Libre, but also we are opening spaces within Mercado Pago, which is our fintech division. No? And one of the things that are also very important for not only the format, but also the way you can automate the programmatic part of, for example, display, which is something that we are starting to offer. The fact that you have service reporting, that you can also understand every minute what's going on with your investment and adjust everything that you need. Attribution models that allows you to link your investment to your return. And also the fact that you can customize very small audiences and allows you to be really impactful in what you are trying to achieve. So it's not just the format, but also the tools that we can offer, or retail media can offer you in order to manage your investment in real time.
I guess kind of evolving in that, and we kind of touched a little bit, how do you show brands and agencies of value retail media? If a new brand kind of going into it, it's a very new, it is very profitable. We're not arguing that, but it's still a new technology. So how do you show brands and agencies the value of retail media?
Well, we have a lot of data in order to demonstrate that, in terms of, for example, we know that we have 1.4x extra brand lift in terms of awareness compared to other media for brands. So because we are in a specific media with a specific audience that we can guarantee. So that's really effective. And something that also Mateo was mentioning before, with budgets tightening and companies looking for really a link of investment into a return, we have a 94% extra purchase conversion within the funnel versus other media. And that's advertisers really value. Imagine that for example, within an e-commerce like Mercado Libre, we have more than 10 million sellers. So having that visibility within that mass audience through retail media allows you to really have a strong presence and an increase in sales. That's something that we are seeing all the time.
Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I guess before we leave today, I definitely wanted to kind of get both of your point of view on, and we'll have one question from the audience at the end, but what is the biggest trend you're keeping an eye out for next year?
I mean, the biggest trend I'm keeping an eye on is really tied to that economic uncertainty question, the trend from earlier. Really, as looking at projections for the region in terms of the economy is slowing, inflation's growing. It is going to be another challenging year, but with any challenges, there's always opportunities, and this I think is where we'll really see retail media start to shine throughout this year, and that's my prediction with that. It'll really start to shine in 2023, even more so. The return on ad spending from different data sets that we've seen, they're significantly higher in Latin America than in, say, the US and other parts of the world. So, if you're a brand looking to get into this, it's now is the time before you start seeing the ROAS start decreasing over time as more people get in. And then also I'm really excited to see how the format or the advertising offering is going to continue to keep evolving. I know, Pablo, you have mentioned the programmatic aspect, which it's an excellent feature. I mean, you're not only targeting on-site, but you're all able to target off-site. So that's something that I'm looking forward to, is how retailers themselves are going to be responding to the industry needs and as well as consumer needs. We also do know that consumers love video, and it's increasingly becoming a more popular format in terms of, say, retail media buys. So that's what I'm keeping an eye out, both how industry spending is going to continue to shift and favor retail media, and as well as how these new ad offerings are going to continue as well to evolve to meet the new demands of an ever-changing world.
Yeah, I think that Mateo said it really well. I won't repeat myself, but I would only add that I think that new formats that give tools to brands and sellers to gain visibility in a relevant way for sellers and for consumers are going to be key. In the case of Mercado Libre, we are looking really closely and experimenting and launching new products around two areas. For example, one is the area of social commerce, where we're experimenting with short videos that sellers can customize, and it's a very entertaining way in which you can discover new products and interact in different ways that are not available today. And the second one is around video, as Mateo was saying. I think that's a really good media in order to leverage the first-party data and the ability to really segment audiences that are of interest. So I think that in the next year, we're going to see both of those exploding, and we are really behind those, no?
That's exciting. I'm excited to see all those upcoming changes in Mercado Libre. I mean, completely agree. Social commerce and video is going to play a big part, especially with creating that consumer experience. So I think, and this is kind of from the question of the audience, a lot of times when we're talking about advertisers, we kind of just talk about all the cool things big brands are doing. And, for the most part, it's really the small brands that are experimenting and really driving a lot of this. So I would want to know, how should a small brand enter the retail media space?
Yeah, I think that it's really a really good question, because I think that retail media, in a way, democratizes the way in which a company can advertise, which is very in sync with our vision as a company to democratize commerce and finances in Latin America. And just to give you an example, there's no minimum investment in Mercado Libre. So it doesn't matter how big or small as a business you are, you can start and try. And that would be my suggestion. Within 10 million sellers, it's really key to cut through. And I think that retail media gives you that ability. And because you have no minimum budget, you can try, you can see the result, and then you can continue learning and escalating. So I would say we have a lot of materials in terms of webinars, what to do, how to start, etc. I would suggest that you go through those materials and start trying with very small investment and escalate from there.
Oh,
that's great advice, Mateo.
That is excellent advice. Almost right out of my mouth. I was like, all right. But I'd say, in terms of brands or smaller brands, what they can do, I mean, it really is a leveling of it is democratizing and leveling the playing field a bit. Obviously, a big global multinational is going to have significantly more budget to, invest and get more in front of people. But even still, if you have a product and you're using the first party data, you can then make really intelligent decisions to see how your campaigns are performing, and that's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of digital advertising, I find, in general, that you have data in real time. And I think a lot of people may not necessarily understand the data, or they don't have the capability, let's just say, have a data team to really analyze that. They're kind of a jack of all trades. They're doing marketing, they're doing this, that, the other. But really, it's really experimenting with it. And I think the other mistake a lot of brands make, that they'll just throw their hat in the ring during these like major shopping periods or major shopping holidays. So you're coming in a period where there is increased competition for retail media. There is a higher cost per click, higher cost per click during these high engagement periods. So my advice would be to, be present all throughout the entire year. I mean, think of it, commit to X budget or X% of projected sales that you are going to commit to, because with anything, you're not going to get, this major success after one try. It's trial and error. It's understanding the unique dynamics of your product, your audience, your potential customers, and you might even discover new customers you never knew even existed because you're trying something new. So I'd say, commit to a budget, commit to it through the entire year, not just special periods, and really, engage with formats. Don't just lean into, say, sponsored product ads, or product ads. Don't lean in just to one format. Experiment, try. And then once you find out what that secret sauce is relevant to your business, and then run wild with it, invest and really ramp up that spending. And if that has to come out of budget from something else, so be it. But at the end of the day, our job as advertisers, as marketers, is to convince consumers that we have something they want and can't live without. So that is the goal of effective advertising, is to get someone to buy something. And what better way to do it in that exact moment? So those are my advice with that. Don't be afraid to try something new, and it's not failure, it's just learning and improving.
Well, thank you both for joining me today. It was very exciting to dive into Latin America and the opportunity in retail media and the growth. Of course, as you both mentioned, they're seeing much greater success in the US when you look at ROAS, and also the technological advancements in Mercado Libre are very impressive, even compared to a lot of retailers in the US that are still catching up to that programmatic element. Thank you, both of you, and I hope to continue this conversation in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.